Recording. Sorry, I was talking myself. Okay. Let me see if somebody
No
can.
problem. Thank
Okay,
you.
good. Okay. So I was just talking about. I was just giving a quick recap of the things that we have done. So let me say a few things in the order that we have done, and then just think about it. If the words that I say or the sentences that I say, if you feel like that you haven't heard them before or you really have a question about them, please let me know. I'm willing to re-talk about it. Okay. So I think some of the things that you should already have understanding or are think what cloud computing means, what CRM means, how Salesforce comes under customer relationship management. You should really know what a lead, account, contact, and opportunity means, what is B2B business and B2C business. Then you should know who are users, who are system administrators. You should know about software development lifecycle, like what is agile methodology, what is waterfall, what are some of the advantages and disadvantages of both. And then you should understand some of the standard objects of Salesforce. What is meant by an object in Salesforce? You should know that. Then you should know about relationships generally in terms of databases, like one-to-many relationship, what it is and why it is useful, or how it is applicable in the real world. You should know what is meant by a tab, an object, a field, a record, what is the 18-digit unique ID that's being generated whenever you create a record. So Salesforce by default gives some standard apps as part of software as a service application, but we have a Lightning platform using which we will be building custom applications. Then you should know what is a custom application means, and then we should know what a custom object means. Custom object is nothing but the table that we create. It's denoted by _C. The API name of the custom object have to be unique. And then within that custom object, the fields that you create should be unique. Then you should know about something about data types, like what is meant by a data type, and things like, when would you use a text, when would you use email, when would you use phone, when would you use long text area, when would you use date time, when would you use date. And while creating the field, you should know what a required field means, what a unique field means, what is a default value, and then you need to know why we would create a tab, like to be able to access. You need to know what an app means. You also need to know a point that app is a container, and then you can use objects like standard objects or custom objects, anything across applications. Then you should know how to create an app. You should understand the concept of profile. While you should probably know how an object is created and what are some of the features that you get while creating an object. And you should know what a page layout means, at least what a page layout is. You should have an understanding of what a dependent pick list is, when we would use a dependent pick list, and we should know what is meant by a pick list, and within that pick list, what is meant by an API value and a label, and then what is meant by a restricted pick list, that we don't allow any values to be saved. Any questions so far? Like when I know I took some time to be able to say all this, but while hearing this, did you feel any of these words that you do not know? I don't expect that you know everything perfectly, but at least I would expect, yeah, I know what that means. I know I can go to setup and navigate here. I know validation means that, it helps us to prevent a record from saving. I know what an object, like at least in that sense, do you guys know all the things that I just told you? Any questions? Anybody? Anything that you felt like you didn't know?
I am aware of the terms, but not in depth, so no questions from me.
Okay. Did anybody was anybody able to practice this and create the app so far? However, I've done. Or, did you guys try building a new app of your own, anything like that? Okay.
I created a booking app.
Oh, you created something called a booking app?
Yeah.
That's good. May I know who this is?
Vijay?
Oh, Vijay. Okay, okay. Sorry, I can see it here. Okay. All right. See, the reason why I asked this, right? See, my job as a developer or as an admin, right? Every day I go and I try to build application or build some pieces of the application. See, I wouldn't know everything, right? I cannot even envision what my work is going to look like tomorrow because I don't know what requirement is going to come or what project my company is trying to build. But all I know are some of the things that I can do in Salesforce. Like, yeah, I can do this. There is this feature. I can use this feature to be able to do. All I know are some of the features and some of the tools that are provided by this technology. So whenever there is a requirement or whenever somebody asks me to build something, I don't have to know what exact scenario it is. If I know, yeah, you know what, I can use a validation rule here. You know what, I need to use this data type. While creating an object, I can make this field required. Like if I know those things, I would just be using those to be able to build application. It's to be able to build, right? It's like this. I mean, you really don't have to read all the books or you really don't have to know all the books to be able to write something, right? All you need is you learn alphabets, you learn a little bit grammar, you learn few words, and then from there on, you just keep building. That's what we are trying to do. We are not trying to learn all the applications that are built across the world. We are only trying to learn the alphabet and some of the grammar that's involved in a language so you can write your own book, when the time comes. We do not know what's going to come our way. We do not know what I'm going to speak after an hour. But since I know the language, I'll be able to talk something, That's why I'm not expecting perfection from you, but I'm expecting at least, yeah, I know this feature can do this. Yeah, I know, there is this something that exists. So at least I want you guys to be confident in that way so that when you're actually building it, you Google it or you read the documentation perfectly and then, do it. Okay? All right. Now, moving on to it. So right now, we have something called a session object where we have all these fields where we are describing the information that needs to be created in a session. Then now I have an object called speaker object. Now within this speaker object, let me just go to setup. This setup piece, going to object manager. Okay. So this is a speaker object. Now, I think I've told you guys, while you are creating the object itself, Salesforce will force, these are audit fields, right? Created by last modified owner. These are audit fields that are given to us by Salesforce. And one of the column that Salesforce by default gives is ID, which we don't see here. But whenever you create a record, automatically Salesforce generates that 18-digit ID. And the first three digits of that ID represents which object that it belongs to. Now, while creating the record itself, Salesforce asks you to create a field, okay, which can be only text or auto number. I think auto number is nothing but the name itself says what it is. Auto number, it's an incremental number, automatically increasing number for every record that we create. Okay, so that's the auto number. So here we have something called speaker number. Okay, now what other fields that we need for speaker? Like we have the session object, that's good. We are trying to capture the information for speaker object, like, who are the speakers. So what other information do we need? Like what is the information that we need to capture about a speaker, like a person who is speaking in the conference? If anybody, speaker, object, what would you capture in an object?
topic?
No. See, that's about session, right? We already have an object where we are capturing the topic. And we're only talking about speaker, like a table where all the speaker, like all the information about speakers will be there. Like people, actual people who are going to present at sessions. We are not establishing the relationship yet. We are only capturing a master table, like a table where the information about each individual speaker is going to be captured.
First name, last name, designation, qualification.
Good. Good. So, yeah, first name. Okay, good. So I'll just create a field called. So what will be the data type here for first name?
Text.
Okay, good. Text. So I'll just add first name. Length, I'll just add to whatever it is. I won't make it required, I'll just say next. I'm just accepting the defaults. So I'll create another field called, come on, last name. Okay, I have first name field. Then I'll create something called last name, which is going to be a text too. I'll probably make last name as mandatory. Okay, I'll just make this as required. So first name, last name, anything else, maybe a bio, like I'll just have a long text area field. Which will just say bio, like, some lines about what this person does and stuff like that. Like, this person whenever you see a blog, you see some introduction, right? Like whenever you see a blog, you say this person have been doing this, in the industry for 5 years, this person does this, like, some information about that person. So bio, first name, last name, okay, good. I mean, again, we can add fields that we want, like specialization, like which specialization is, whether this person is specialized in administration or development. Okay, let's add one pick list value. Or let's just say pick list, and I will add level. Like I'll just add a level, and it will say beginner, intermediate, advanced. Even in the speakers, right? We will have beginner, intermediate, and advanced. Next, and save. Okay, good. So now if you notice, for the speaker object, while creating the object itself, we opted to create a tab, and hence if you go here to the conference management app, you will notice that we have speakers. When you click new, you have all the information: first name, last name, bio, and level. Okay, so let me create first name, bio, okay. When I hit save, you see, when I hit save, automatically the speaker number is generated, SP001. Okay, so let me create a new record, like the speaker number, which is an auto number that's automatically generated. So let me create a new record. See, automatically there is a new record call that's created, which is 002. So like you keep on the more you keep on adding the records, the number will be automatically incremented. And then, of course, you have these fields, and this is SP002. This is the auto number, and we have all these fields that are created. Okay, good. Now, I just want you to look at one thing. Remember, while creating the object, okay, if you notice, while creating the object, let me show you. So if I go to setup, okay, in the object manager, let me go to session. We are looking at session. If you look at session, did we check the checkbox for track activities? No, we didn't check the checkbox for track activities. Whereas, let's go and check speakers. Okay. So for this, remember, we check the checkbox called track activities. So let's see what is the difference between those two. Okay. How do I collapse this? I don't know, man. Okay. So I'll go to speakers. I'll go to one of the speakers. And you see, so if you go to session, let's say I go to session, and if you see this, you see you're not seeing anything called activities or anything here. Okay? Because on the session object, you didn't enable activities. Whereas if you go to speaker, and if you look at this, there is something called activity. So what is this? So when you enable activities, you will be able to see something like an activity tab or an activity related list that you see. So what is mean by activity? So in a CRM application, like in any CRM application, we need to capture activities. When I say activities, literally any activity that you do. For example, so the due date is probably on 14th. Let's say. See, when I click save, automatically what happened? An activity is created. Okay, an activity is nothing but a record got created or a task got created, and when you look at this record, it is showing me like imagine there are multiple tasks that are involved. So I'll say call her right before it. Call her right before, and I make the date as February 13th, or inform her to prepare her, inform her to submit her PowerPoint presentation, and it would be on February 10th. So if I have all those activities, this is called as an activity timeline. This activity timeline will show all the activities here. Okay. Now, don't worry about it much. Activity is nothing but, in Salesforce, we have two standard objects called as task and another standard object called event. So these are standard objects that are already given to us by Salesforce to be able to capture activities that are going on. Because as a CRM application, you go to any object like contact or opportunity anywhere, we might not need activities for everything, but if we want to use these activities like task and event, we will be able to use it, and these are the standard objects that are given to us by Salesforce. Now, where do you find them? Okay, if you want to see the fields, all those things that are related to them, like you can go here, you can go to Object Manager, search for task. You see, task is the object. The API name is task. It is a standard object that is given to us by Salesforce. And if you see the field name, these are all the standard fields that are given to us by Salesforce. Okay. In the same way, there is an activity, there is an object called event. Okay. So event is also one of the standard object that is already provided for us. Okay. So it is related, like we will talk about polymorphic relationship and all that. Let's not worry about it now. The thing that you want to know is whenever you see activities or whenever you hear the word activity in Salesforce, people are talking about the task and event object that is already given to us. Okay. And the functionality, everything is already built Salesforce has something called calendar and all that, where you can plan your day and everything. So those are all the things that are already there. So now by creating this task and event, let's say you create an event, automatically it will show up in your calendar. Like when I say it will show up in your calendar, within your Salesforce calendar, that event would show up. That, hey, you have an event that you need to attend at this time on this day. So this feature is already there in Salesforce. So I was just trying to give you an introduction of what that is. Like activities means a placeholder where you can capture all the tasks and events that are happening, and this is already given to us by Salesforce. And task and event are the objects that are used for it. If you don't enable activities, you will not see the activity for this one. Okay, good. Now let's talk about. I know we spoke about relations, the object relationships before. Now let's talk about this scenario. So we have an object called session and we have an object called speaker. What would be the kind of relationship like between these two objects? What should be the relationship between these two objects? One session, like let's say one session, REST API development. For this REST API development, we can have multiple speakers, right? Like there can be 2 or 3 speakers that can talk about this, okay? And at the same time, the same speaker can talk in multiple, like for example, okay, let's take my name as the example. Shravan is a speaker, okay? I can talk about REST API development, I can talk about SFDC administration, I can talk about work page. So I can be the speaker for these 3 sessions. Okay? And at the same time, a single session can have many speakers. Okay? Think about another example. Okay? Think about another example, like in college. So you have an object called course object. The course object will have BUS 501, BUS 503, BUS 504, so that's the course object, where in the course object you have all the list of courses that are being offered. Then at the same time, you have another object called student object. Student object is nothing but you have the student name, first name, last name, address where they live, the student ID, all that information is captured in the student object. Now, you want to create, people will register for courses, right? Like people want to register for courses every semester. And whenever they register, that data is being stored somewhere, right? So what kind of relationship that would be? The relationship would be many-to-many. When I say many-to-many, here is how it is. Each student can take multiple courses. As an international student, we will take 3 courses definitely per semester. So each student will take 3 courses or multiple courses, and at the same time, each course will also be if you go to each class, there will be multiple students associated. So it's many to many. One student can have many courses. At the same time, one course can be taken by many students. So this relationship is called many to many relationship. Okay. Whereas in the previous examples that we spoke about, employee salary, what happens? An employee can have multiple employee salaries. That's just one to many relationship. Okay. Whereas the example that we are talking about, session and speaker, it's a many to many relationship because one session can be held by multiple speakers. At the same time, one speaker can also speak at multiple sessions. Do you understand the difference between many to many and one to many? So there are only 2 things that you need to know: one to many and many to many. Don't worry about master detail lookup here. Okay, take out the concept of master detail or lookup at all. So there are two different concepts in relationship. One is one to many and another one is many to many. So one to many, what is one to many? The example is employee and employee salary. Each employee, the salaries are very specific to that employee. So one employee can have multiple salaries. That is, one-to-many relationship. Okay, the example that we are seeing here is many-to-many relationship. Or any is that clear? Any questions? An account can have multiple contacts. Each account can have multiple contacts. That's one-to-many. An account can have multiple opportunities. That's one-to-many. Okay, so those are all the examples of one-to-many relationships, where an account having multiple contacts or an account having multiple opportunities, those are one-to-many relationships. Okay, whereas like the example that we are talking about between session and speakers or course and student, these are many-to-many relationship. Okay, any question? Anybody? Okay. Now we'll see how do we establish many-to-many, because I'll show you how do we establish one-to-many. Okay. Let me go to the sales app. Here we did a one-to-many relationship, right? So we have employees here and we have employee salaries. Okay, so let me go to the object manager once just to show you. So we have an object called employee, which is the master object, just tracking what is the employee email, employee name, and employee designation. Okay, this is just the employee object. Now I'll go to employee salary object. You see, this is but here we use the relationship called lookup relationship, and we are making employee as the lookup. Okay, so here what we are saying, like by establishing this one-to-many relationship, we are saying that, you know, one employee can have multiple salaries, and that's one-to-many relationship between employee and employee salary. Whereas this course and session, like if one, a session and speaker, each session can have multiple speakers. If each session can have multiple speakers, it would have been one-to-many. But each session can have multiple speakers, and at the same time, each speaker can also be part of multiple sessions. So there is many-to-many relationship. Same with student and course. You know, it's many-to-many relationship. Now, if you are confused, or like, you know, when you have a requirement, if you are unsure, think about the same exact examples that we spoke about: account contact, or employee salary, or course and course and student. Like, think about these examples and imagine where would your scenario fit. Like, you know, that's what I do always. So I take one example. This is my personal experience. So what I do is, whenever I go to write an exam, especially like TOEFL or any exam like that, I wouldn't want to prepare the whole thing. I used to only not that it worked wonderfully, it only worked at an average level, but that's the technique that I follow. I only prepare one example, but I prepare that example in such a way that it, you know, especially in writing, right? Like, I'm sure you must have written TOEFL exam or IELTS. So when you are preparing for your writing, so what would you do? I took a book, then I saw one example. Like, I randomly picked one example. I saw the question that's asked in the exam, and I also saw the response that's written by someone, you know, who is very good at in English. So I only saw that example. I read that example twice, you know, even if they asked me in my sleep, I would repeat the exact lines what they were asked. And, you know, while doing that, I prepared, okay, what is the format and all those things. Now I go to the exam. When I go to the exam, I get a question. So when I get a question, I just think about, okay, in the example that I know, for this question, in the first paragraph, they have answered it this way. In the second paragraph, they took a this topic. In the final paragraph, they try to write it, whatever argument that they made in first two paragraphs, they try to make a counter argument here. Like, that's the format that they have followed. So I try to, think about the same, like for the current question that's given to me, I try to think about the same example that I know and come up with, some lines of my own. It didn't work out, super awesome, but it worked out well for me. So that's why I wouldn't even want to, whenever I do this, especially like until you get used to it. Once you figure this out, like there will be a point where you're practicing, you'll figure it out, and then you don't have to remember about all these tricks. But until you figure it out, just have these examples handy. And whenever you are faced with a scenario, just try to compare your scenario with the examples that I gave you, and then see where would it fit. Would it fit in many-to-many scenario? Would it fit in one-to-many scenario? Just try to compare it with your example, and then make a decision. Okay, until you get used to it. Once you figure it out, there will be a point where you'll figure it out. Then you wouldn't even you'd be natural in doing those. Okay, so that's why I'm trying to remind those examples again and again, so you have something to compare it against. Okay, all right. Now, how do we establish many-to-many relationship? Now, like if I go back to the conference app. So the many-to-many relationship can be established using something called as a junction object. Okay, so the junction object, like we create another object called another object which has one relationship with session and another relationship with speaker. So we call it as a junction object. Using that junction object, we will be able to create many-to-many relationship. Okay, now, before I talk anything, let me create the junction object and let me show you what it does. Okay, let me create the junction object and let me show you what it does. Then it would make more sense why I did that. Okay. So let me create an object. Okay, usually when we create a junction object, this is the notation I follow. So I just, even the name is this, I try to add something called JO at the end of it. So okay. So even this one, I'll just make it an auto number for now. Okay. I'll just say number. I'll just say like just a simple number. Okay, I wouldn't even give any prefix or anything. So this is called, I think I told you this, this is called a seeding number, the starting number or a seeding number. We call it as a seeding because, from a seed, the plant grows. In the same way, the number keeps on increasing. If I put 20 here, the first record that gets created will have a number of 20. And, it grows on from there. Like the next record would have 21, 22, 23, like that. So whatever we can put the starting number as whatever we want. So I'll allow reports. I don't want to allow activities or anything like that. I'll put it in deployed state. I'll just allow search and hit save. So I created an object called session speaker J. Okay. Then let me create a relationship. Okay. So first we are trying to create a junction object. Let me create a master detail relationship with session. Okay. So I'm creating a master detail relationship to session. Okay. I'm just accepting the defaults. Save. I'll create another master detail relationship. Okay. With speaker. Okay. So you see what I did? Let me open a schema builder. Okay. Let me open schema builder to make you understand what this many-to-many relationship is. Oh, sorry, not this one. Okay. Schema builder. So schema builder is nothing but it will show you like the object relationship, how they are represented in the database and stuff. So I'll just show you session speaker. Okay. Can you guys see it clearly, this one? Okay. So you see, session is a table, like, you're seeing all the columns that we created. Speaker is a table. Okay. So what is this indicating here? Like using this junction object, you see, this is one-to-many, this is one-to-many, which is making this many-to-many. Okay. One speaker can have multiple, of course, session speakers. One session can have multiple session speakers. In turn, like these two objects don't have a direct relationship. One session can have multiple session speakers. Of course, one session can have multiple sessions. And at the same time, one speaker can have multiple session speakers also, like, which indicates one speaker can speak at multiple sessions. One session can have multiple speakers. So this has one-to-many relationship, this has one-to-many relationship, which is making, like, there is no direct relationship between these two objects, which is making, we are able to, using this junction object, we are able to achieve the many-to-many relationship between these two. Okay, so let me add employee and employee salary here. Okay, so let me pull this here. So let's only look at this one. One employee can have multiple employee salaries. You see, it is clearly indicating one employee, and look at this branch here, tiny little branch. So that's saying one employee can have multiple employee salaries. Yes, parent object, child object. One parent can have multiple children, parent object, child. This is one-to-many relationship. Okay. Now, let's go up a little bit here. So let's talk about this one. See, here there is no direct relationship, but here what we are saying is one session can have multiple session speakers. In the same time, one speaker can have multiple session speakers. So this is using like this junction object, we are able to establish a many-to-many relationship. So this is an example of one-to-many relationship, and this is an example of many-to-many relationship. Okay, so you might be wondering why is this red color and why is this blue color? This blue color indicates these two objects are related through lookup relationship. This red color indicates that these two objects are related through master detail relationship. We will talk about the differences. Yes, we will talk about the differences. between master detail and lookup. Now, you can create, I know there is a misconception. If you are reading some Salesforce documentation, there is a big misconception among the documentation or among people that you call you can create many-to-many relationship only using master detail. No, no. As long as you create one-to-many, like you can make these two lookup relationship as well. It doesn't have to be master detail. You can make these things lookup relationship as well, and it is still called a junction object. It doesn't matter which kind of, whether it's master detail or lookup relationship. It doesn't matter. Remember, I told you master detail or lookup is only Salesforce concept. Okay, think in real database terms. Okay, as long as there is one-to-many, like you can call and create many-to-many relationship even using lookup. Because whether it's lookup or master detail, see, let's talk only about these two objects. So one session can have multiple session speakers using master detail relationship. One employee can have multiple employee salaries using lookup relationship. So what is the difference? This is a parent child, this is parent child, one-to-many, one-to-many. There is no difference at all. The only difference is in this case, okay, because in this case, master detail, Salesforce is offering some special features. What are those special? If you delete the session record, all the session speaker records that are related to this will also be automatically deleted. If you delete the employee record, the employee salary records won't be deleted because you're using a lookup relationship. It's just a Salesforce thing, the lookup or master detail. But at the database level, there is nothing like, at the real database level, there is nothing like lookup or master detail. Okay? I know it's confusing, but let me tell you the utmost good technique that works. Okay? Just use this and try to create this many times. Okay? So I'm only talking from my experiences. I'll just, I'll tell you one example, okay? Okay. So when I was an admin, like I really didn't know anything about programming. I was just, an admin working on Salesforce, but I always wanted to write some code. Okay. And again, see, coding is something, that cannot be taught, or like it's how do I say, it's like physics. When you are in your +1 or +2, it's like physics. When you get it, that's it. Like, no matter whatever you study, or if you get it, there will be when you get the concept, that's it. You really don't, you can expand on it. But, the same teachers will teach, everything will be same, but some people get it and some people don't. Okay. But I always believed in one thing, especially when it comes, coding is very similar to that when it comes to coding. So I saw an example like this. Okay, this is the exact example I saw on, and probably after 6 months I got into job and I wanted to write a program. You know what I did? I didn't try to, like, I know people usually say, try to understand the concept and all. Okay, I was looking at this trigger and I couldn't really understand anything because at that point, the programming knowledge that I had at that point, for loop doesn't mean anything to me. I don't know what it is. I don't know why it is used for. This trigger.new means nothing to me. I didn't know all that. But you know what I did? I just rewrote, like even I just took a notebook. I've written it multiple times. I've typed it multiple times. I created this in multiple times and I saved it. After, like, when I was doing it for the third time, fourth time, fifth time, something struck me and I automatically figured it out. Even without nobody telling it, I automatically figured out why that for loop is used, what it is really doing, what trigger that new is. Like, the reason why I'm giving that example is sometimes you need to blindly go into some things, believe in some things, and you just have to keep doing it. The reason why I'm saying that is, this might look confusing. The more you hear about, probably you might want to understand this concept and you might want to listen to my recording again and again. Or you might want to read the whole documentation about what is lookup relations, master div, many-to-many junction. You can do that, but instead, you know what? Just blindly go ahead and think about any example that you want, or think about the same example, create it multiple times, create it, or go create an object, then create an object, create another thing, try to create some records and see, like blindly without knowing anything. After, in a third try or fourth try, you will figure it out. Like, you just will figure it out. You don't even know how to figure it out. You might not be able to explain it to somebody what it is, but you will know it, what that means. You will exactly know the scenario when it needs to be used. And that's the same thing that I follow whenever I'm learning a new thing, whenever I'm, trying to write into some new technology that I've never worked. I just write it twice, thrice, and there will be a fourth time when you will automatically figure it out. Even with this same thing, if you get it, it's okay. If not, remember the examples and, try to simulate it with the examples that you have. And for now, if you want to understand it more, just create it once, twice, thrice, 4 times, and then try to read some documentation about it. Okay, that's when things would make more sense to you. I can speak about this on and on, what is lookup, what is many-to-many, and all that, and I would just be confusing you more. Okay, that's why take some time, soak this in, and then try to create 1 or 2 examples. Then, come to me with questions. Come to me with like, hey, you know what? This is the scenario and I'm trying to do this. What should I do? Like, try to come to me with those scenarios and that'd be more helpful rather than looking at this multiple times. Okay. Let's see this in action. Do you guys know how to go to Schema Builder? Even if you don't know, like I said, setup is where we make money from once we get a job. So you go to setup, you go in the search, you just type in Schema Builder and you'll get this. Okay. So I'm just going to go to my conference management tab. Okay. So we have session and we have speaker. And if you look at the session and if you look at it record, you automatically see something called session speakers. Okay, because just like employee and under employee, you are seeing employee salary. Right? In the same way, under related records, because this is a child of session speaker is a child object of session. In the same way, even if you go to speaker, you see session speaker. So session speaker is an object that is child of session and that is also a child of speaker. In turn, it's establishing many-to-many between these two. Okay. Now let me go to a session. Let me just go to a session record. Okay. Go to related. I'll just say new. So when I'm creating this new, what it is saying? Okay. For REST API development, who is the speaker? Okay. I'll just say speaker 1. Okay. And so I'll just add the column. Okay, so what is this indicating? Okay, let me go to session again. So for this REST API development, there are two speakers, okay? One is speaker 1 and one is speaker 2. At the same time, if you go to speaker 1, it is clearly indicating that, hey, you are speaking at a session where, the topic about REST API is going to be there. Okay, in the same way, I can go to speaker 2. I'll add more columns here, okay? Just to make our understanding better, I'll add more columns here. But for now, I'll add more columns just to make our understanding better and, do all those things. But any questions here so far between one-to-many and many-to-many? Like, just tell me if you got the concept of one-to-many and many-to-many.
I have a question.
Yes.
As you said that one speaker can have many sessions, right? But this
Yes.
is just at the base level of the application that we are thinking. But at the same time, one speaker cannot have two sessions, like if the timings are same,
That's good.
Like
That's
if he
an
has
exact thing.
Yeah.
That's good. So that is where we write, that is where we have validation rules and business logic. So the thing that you're talking about is exactly correct. So one session, one speaker cannot have multiple sessions at the same time. That means when you're trying to link a speaker to an existing session, you need to write a validation rule or a business logic using Apex programming to make sure that you should not allow them to create an overlap record.
Okay. But for me, if I'm looking at the logic at the very first point, one speaker cannot have two sessions, it's not one-to-many. So I'm getting myself wrong at the very first step that you taught. That's what I want to clear.
See, here is the thing. Okay, let me. So now there is a session called REST API development, and there is a session called SFDC administration, right?
Right.
Okay, there are these two sessions. REST API development, the timing is tomorrow. SFDC administration, the timing is day after tomorrow.
Right.
Okay. Now, I am the speaker. See, let's say we have two speakers, right? Me and Saroj. We have two speakers here. Okay.
Okay.
We are speaking in REST API development and we are speaking in SFDC administration. Is it possible or not?
It is possible.
So that means a REST API development, one session is having multiple speakers because we are both speaking here. And
right.
SFDC administration, we have multiple speakers, right?
Yes.
Okay. Now think from my perspective. As a speaker, Shravan, as me, how many sessions I am speaking in this week?
Two.
So that means as a person, as a speaker, I have and at the same time, as a session has multiple, right?
Right.
So now what you're talking about is so technically from a database standpoint, I can speak at multiple sessions, and at the same time, a session can have multiple speakers. But what you mentioned, the point that you mentioned is a good point. What you mentioned is the business logic. What you're saying is, hey, how can a speaker speak at two different sessions that are happening at the same time? You know what? That is business logic. That is the process logic that we are talking about. Yes, we allow, the data, as per database relationship, we are allowing them to speak at multiple sessions and, we're establishing the relationship. At the same time, we should write some rules or we should come up with this business logic in such a way that the speaker is not double booked at the same time. That's business logic.
Okay.
You get it now? What is many-to-many?
Yes.
It's not happening at the same time, right? I can speak in multiple sessions, all across a year, one each day. I can do that.
Provided it's not at the same time. Yeah, so it's a logic
It's
that
not
we
at the
have
same
to
time.
add. Okay.
No, provided it's not at the same time is the validation rule or trigger that we are going to write. Like as a developer, that's a good thinking. So we need to be like, okay, yeah, this is there, but is there an edge case? Yes, there is an edge case in this scenario. There is an edge case that a speaker cannot be present at two sessions at the same time. So when a speaker is present at the first session, it's good. When we are trying to add a second record for that speaker, we write a validation rule or we write some logic behind the scenes and throw an error message and saying, hey, you know what, this speaker already has a session at this point, so let's not book it. That's the business logic that we write.
Got it. Yeah.
Okay, anybody? Any questions? Okay, so I just want to see the speaker, right? Instead of the number, I just want to make it a name, because this is confusing. I just want to convert this auto number to text. Okay, how do we do that? I mean, it's a good thing. Like, okay, what happened is here we created the speaker, like the name field as an auto number, but because of this, what's happened? Okay, now let's talk about what is the importance of this name field first. Remember, I told you, Salesforce, whenever you are creating an object, it will make you to create a name field. Okay, that name field can be an either auto number or a text. So let's talk about what is the importance of that. Okay, the importance is this. You see, the speaker, we have first name and last name and all, but this is the name field for it, right? Okay, this is the name field for it. For session, what is the name field? The topic is the name field. Like while we are creating the object itself, we are saying the topic is the name field. And for speaker, we are saying this speaker number is the name field. Okay, now let's look at what it is. Okay, so I'll go here, REST API development. I'll go related. I'm trying to add a session speaker. Okay, you see here I'm trying to look up. This is called this is a lookup that is given to us by Sales. So here for REST API development, I want to add a speaker. So when I want to add a speaker, you see Salesforce is showing me the name field, because see I'm trying to look for a record, right? For this REST API session, like for the REST API development session, I'm trying to add a speaker to it. Like I'm trying to add a speaker is nothing but I'm trying to fill in this field. When I'm trying to fill this field, what is Salesforce showing me? Salesforce cannot show the whole record for me, right? It cannot show all the fields in here. So that's why what Salesforce does, Salesforce show me the name field. So the name field are useful, especially when there are relationships involved. Okay, instead of showing the whole, like let's say if you go here, go to this junction record. If you go to this junction record, you see here it is saying this junction record indicates speaker 1 is speaking on REST API development. Okay, now you see if I click on REST API development, it will take me to this REST API development record. Okay, so this, whenever there are relationships that are involved, this field helps you to, there is a difference between this regular field and this relationship field. When the relationship field is there, Salesforce displays the name field. Whatever the value that is there in the name field, it's going to display it. Okay, so that's why these are called name. The first field that we create is called name field. Now, I think we made a mistake. The mistake that we made is, for speaker, we created the auto number. So now, just by looking at it, we see it as SP001, but it doesn't make sense, right? What is SP001? Who remembers the numbers? So at least if we see a name, we will be fine, right? So that's why let's change let's change the data type. Let me go to speaker. Okay, for speaker object, I'll go to fields and relationships. I'll go to the name field here. Okay, here I'll just say edit. Okay, I'll just say speaker name, move it into text. Okay, I'll just say speaker name and move it into text and save. So instead of speaker number, I moved the name field as name, so that from now on, okay, in the conference management tab, if at all I want to create a speaker, it's not going to be auto number anymore. It's going to be a text field. Okay. I'll just say, now you can ignore the, what you call, we don't, like if we make this as a name field, we don't need first name and last name anymore. So, but because I made last name as mandatory, I'm just typing it. Okay. So now look at the, I just want to show you the difference. You see the name field, instead of SP001 or 002, these are auto numbers. So instead of this, it's going to show this one here. Now observe the difference. If I go to SFDC administration, okay, I'm in SFDC administration and I want to add a speaker to this. Okay, for SFDC administration, I can add Rajesh. So if I save this record, what is this record saying to me? This record, by looking at this record, what is this record saying? We are saying that, okay, this is a session speaker object. So Rajesh is going to speak about SFDC administration. So this is indicating me that. This is clearly telling me, okay, the junction object is telling me Rajesh is going to speak at SFDC administration. Now, if I want to see who are all the people that are speaking about SFDC administration, I need to click this record. And if I go here, it's going to tell me here, like who are all the people that are going to talk about SFDC administration. Okay, you know, try out this example, like tomorrow before you come, right? Like tomorrow before the session, try out this example. Create a course object, create a session object, sorry, student object. So the course will be course name. Okay, course name will be the name field, and for student object, student name. Okay, so student name, student email, student phone number, student address, that would be the student object. In the course object, you will have course name, course code, name will be business ethics, and the code will be BUS 503. Course name, course code, like major, like which major it belongs to. You can have these three. Then create a junction object. The junction object will be course registration. The name of the junction object will be course registration, which would have, you can create master detail or lookup, I don't mind, which would have one lookup or master detail to course and another lookup or master detail to student, and then create some records. Create records in this table, create records in student table, and then also create some records in the junction table, and try to understand that. Okay, work with this example, and hopefully that will make you understand what many-to-many relationship is. Okay, promise me you do this, because you know, if you understand this thing, right, like why the relationships are created and how these relationships are created, that's it. There is really nothing else to figure out in any technology, no matter what, no matter this. You work as a BA, you work as a tester, you work as anything. If you figure out how and why these relationships are created and how it's useful, that's it. You really do not have to, I mean, you don't have to learn anything. As long as you learn this, that's it. Okay, so please do that example. I wouldn't even ask anything after this. Okay, just please do this example of student, course, and then create a junction object called course registration. I will even chat it to you. just to make sure, student object, you can copy paste, from the chat. This is the junction object. I'm sorry, pardon my spelling there. So student object contains the student profile information. Course object contains the details about an individual course. Now so after creating that, before even you create the junction object, add lots of records to student object and lots of records to course object. Okay? So the process will be create student object capturing info about students like name, ID, email, address, etc. That's number one. Second step will be create course object that would feels like course name is a name field, then course code major. Major can be a pick list like business administration or chemistry, whatever, major. Then the third step would be create a lot of student records. Fourth step would be create a lot of course records. And the fifth step would be create a junction object named course registration. Okay, you can just do whatever you want. Okay, for now, just do this. One master detail relationship to course and a lookup relationship to student. Okay, just to understand. Okay, so this will enable many-to-many relationship. Now create records in course registration object. Okay, so yeah, just copy it, store it somewhere. Please do this. Now, if you have already had employee and employee salaries, just take a second and try to understand the difference. Okay, which scenario would be ideal for employee scenario, and what am I achieving from this? Like, what is, forget about Salesforce or anything. Think from regular database terms, okay, what it is helping. And then you will be, you should be able to understand name, like what name fields are and all that. Okay? Would you guys please do this? Just do this, okay? If you do this, you see the complex, it's the easy topic, but, it's a bit hard to understand. When you do not get it, it becomes a little bit hard to understand what you call these relationships are. But if you create these, if you create the example that I asked, I'm assuming you created employee and employee salary objects already. But if you create this and compare it with that, I think you should be good with object relationships. Okay. Any question with the assignment? I wouldn't call it assignment, but it's not like I'm going to grade it or anything, but any question with that? What needs to be done? Okay. Now, I just want to talk about a second assignment. We might not be able to do it, but I just want you guys to think about it. Think how we would want to do it. Okay? See, here is a problem. Now, let's try to solve the real problem that we have. So what I do, I'll send an invite for a meeting for everybody. Okay? Usually, I'm sending an invite for everybody. But what is WebEx doing? WebEx is sending the recording link only for the people who are joining the session. People who are not joining the session, WebEx is not automatically sending a recording link. Now, what I'm trying to do is, I want to create an app. Like, this is a business problem, right? This is a valid, genuine business problem. What I want to do is, all the people who are receiving an invite should be able to, like, either, should be able to access the recordings, no matter whether they attended the session or whether they did not attend the session. They should be able to receive the email. Now, I won't give you any ideas. I thought about it. I have 2-3 ideas on how to do it. Think about it as a business problem and think about, as a developer, how would you solve it using Salesforce? Okay? Using Salesforce with, like, even though the topics might not be covered, just come up with ideas. Okay? I think you know the problem. I just want to repeat it in case somebody wasn't paying attention. I send an invite to 15 or 20 people, okay, in WebEx, the meeting invite. People who only join the meeting will get the recording link. If you do not join the meeting, you don't get a recording link. Now, what am I doing right now? I'm going to WebEx, copying the meeting link, password, topic name, and I'm sending an email, the recording so far. I'm sending a manual email to everybody. Now, I want to create an app, and I want to use Salesforce to be able to solve this problem. Okay? How would you solve it? Like, any idea how would you solve it? Like, the solution for the problem is, everybody, whoever is invited to this session, after the recording is available, they should be able to receive, they should be able to somehow access the recordings. Okay? Either it can be an email notification, it can be a page where everything can be, like, come up with some solution that we need to use Salesforce. It's a genuine business problem. Okay? So, I mean, for the second one, I don't, you don't have to build. I mean, if you start building, if you have time and if you start building something on your side, that's great. But I want you to think about it, how you would solve the business problem. But for the first one, I would expect you to do it tomorrow. Okay? Any questions? Anybody? All right. I just want to caution you something. Okay? Now, if you do not do this, if you do not do the assignment that I ask you, after 4 days or 5 days, when I'm talking about master detail lookup, hey, this is the parent relationship, this is the child, we are doing a cross-object formula here, we're doing a cross-object validation. If I'm using those terms, and if you feel like you're not understanding them, please don't blame me. Okay? Let's only get this topic very clear in our mind, and that's when move on to the next topic. I'm willing to spend more time on this. It's okay. It's not a problem. But please, please, please try to do that assignment. If you have questions, and if you're unable to move forward, if you're stuck somewhere, yes, we'll talk about it and then move forward. But please do this, because once you figure this out, I promise everything is going to be easy. Okay? So I will see you guys tomorrow.
Okay.